Hello, Gonky. It's
Hello,
Monday.
Mover.
It's not 8 o'clock.
No,
I'm sorry.
it's 8 o'clock somewhere.
It's 8 o'clock somewhere.
It's not here.
It is new day, new jet. We've got a lot to talk about. But first, let's just talk about our feelings.
How are you feeling?
How are you? It's Monday at like noon at some places, 11
Feels
o'clock
weird.
here. But yeah, so who cares? A lot of stuff happening this weekend. None of it good. Some of it funny. I would like to put this tweet up right now because
Wingman, I'm sure he's a hell of a fix. I have scanned all through the skies, but I needn't use my eyes, 'cause that
that language. Has anyone seen my wingman? So Joint Base Charleston put out a tweet. It said, we're working with MK. This is before they edited it, which I'm glad I got the screenshot. We're working to locate one of their F-35s that was involved in a mishap near our base this afternoon. The pilot ejected safely. Thank goodness. If you have any information on the whereabouts of the F-35, please call our base. Oh goodness!
I usually keep a leash on things that I don't want to, run away.
And then of course it's because Lockheed didn't pay the extra, or they didn't pay Lockheed the extra $69.99 to get the Find My F-35 feature with the AirTag.
Yeah. However, they can upgrade for a certain amount of money.
Yeah, for the low rate. Oh boy, we do the banner. Douglas isn't here, so this is all for legal reasons. This is a joke, and does not represent the Department of Defense.
Kind of.
Weekend.
I mean, if you can lose a 777, you can definitely lose an F-35.
I know they're probably, dude. What if it's aliens?
Maybe they're in the same hangar.
What if it's the same aliens that stole?
They're getting quite a collection of airplanes.
All right. Well, here's the article. We'll talk about it. U.S. asked for help finding a missing F-35 jet after. I'm sorry, it's serious, Gonky. After the pilot ejects during air quote mishap by Chantal da Silva, a U.S. fighter jet stealth capabilities appear to be working too well with authorities forced to ask the public for help finding an F-35. I don't know why they keep putting mishap in quotes. That's what it is. Anyway, so the pilot ejected from Fat Amy. He was found in, I think he ejected on the street.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's where they found him, in a neighborhood.
Is the F-35 not on block somewhere? Have they checked the chop shops? I mean, is that?
I don't.
You can get your wheels stolen in some parts of Charleston. I mean,
well, I mean, thank God the pilot's okay. But
hold on, let me finish the article, and we'll talk about that. So anyway, they look for it. It was still in the autopilot mode when the pilot ejected from the aircraft, so there's a possibility that it could still be airborne. Well, probably not now, but at the time of this article. Could have crashed, but he was unable to elaborate. Circumstances that prompted the pilot to eject from the aircraft were not immediately clear. And then, of course, the public is, the representative Nancy May says, how in the hell do you lose an F-35? How is there not a tracking device? And we're asking the public to, find a jet and turn it in? Yeah. So aerospace giant Lockheed describes the F-35 series on his website as most advanced fighter jet in the world. A little too advanced.
Yeah.
Most lethal, stealthy, survivable aircraft. So, Gonky, what... So, all right. Let's answer some questions, because the Twitter sphere, I mean, this has obviously been meme city, and people have asked questions. And one of the first questions, obviously, we're thankful that the pilot's okay. Any ejection that you can walk away from is a good one, especially with Fat Amy. I still don't trust the whole ejecting through the canopy thing and with shards and everything. I think that's... Anyway, so we're grateful for that, and I'm sure it's going to be a while. Gonky, flying on a Sunday, is that a Wombat? Because I brought this up to Wombat, and he's like, yeah, dude, we flew on Sundays all the time. That's not really an Air Force thing. So Marines flying on Sunday, is that across country, or are they doing real work?
Probably across country, like an RTB from maybe Key West or something. I wouldn't say we flew all the time on Sunday, but Beaufort, that is I'm pretty... Actually, I think that's where they have their B course or their RAG. and it didn't say. I think it was VEMFAT 5. Was it 501?
Does it even say? Yeah. So I mean, could be a
Could be a cross country return
instrument. Yeah, where they go out to get their instrument check.
It is a thing. It's not super common, but it is a thing.
So one of the biggest questions that comes up the first thing is, well, how come the wingman didn't chase it? And I will say we always talked about this, but sometimes we pay lip service to it, but it's probably one of the most important parts of the brief is RESCAP. So the rescue, combat air patrol, what happens, what do you do when one of your bros jumps out of the airplane? So we always used to talk about squawk talk mark. So we'd squawk emergency as the wingman to let everybody know that's watching us that, hey, there's an emergency going on. Try to talk to the survivor, try to talk to outside agencies, bring other assets that might have more situational awareness, more fuel, whatever, bring them into the mix. And then mark the position of the survivor and or the wreckage, whatever the case may be. When your wingman jumps out, you are worried about your wingman. You are not chasing down a self-aware, morbidly obese Amy as it traverses the countryside.
As it waddles across the country.
Waddles across the country like a Chinese spy balloon. Like it's just not, that is not your prerogative. What I am surprised though, is that the alert. So Charleston, who would be sitting? That would be DC probably. So
Virginia, right?
Yeah. So Virginia, Charleston, South Carolina. So that'd be the Virginia Andrews guys. Who's sitting alert? Because that's who would probably be next up, unless they had another. And this is why I think cross country, because they might have, if it had been an LFE, there's probably other jets that are around. If it's not, and it's just this random two ship, then, now it's the alert jets that have to go find this thing. And I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's tough when you don't know.
Well, we're just like throwing stuff at the wall right now, but
yeah,
if they were coming back from across country, they'd have a transponder on. And I don't understand why ATC couldn't at least point them in the right direction. I mean, they got a radar.
Yeah. So what happens? Gonky, you talked about, you've told this story before about the guy that ejected behind the boat and the jet kept flying. What happened in that situation?
Yeah, he punched out. But he was within visual range.
What's the story? Just retell the story, because I think people might not remember.
Okay.
I know.
It's this didn't happen in my air wing, but it happened while I was flying the Hornet. Basically, one of the guys I went to flight school with was coming back at night from and he was in an older Hornet, so they had a LOX bottle.
Liquid oxygen.
So
go ahead.
Yeah, so he gets down, he's getting ready to come aboard the ship. He's like 7 or 10 miles out, something like that. He's down at 1,200 feet, gets the oxy low, and without in a LOX bottle, Jeff, you run out of oxygen. I mean, like and the mask is secure to your face, like you can't breathe. So he reaches down to pull the emergency oxygen. He pulls the wrong handle and ejects himself. I know, not the preferred way to get out of an airplane, but so he accidentally ejects himself. Doesn't talk to anybody, and it's during nighttime, right? Case 3 ops, which is calm out anyways. And they see him coming, and the LSOs, he doesn't start descending. His airplane just flies right over the ship and actually does a appropriate slight little check turn over the ship, kind of like aligning itself with the angle, and then flies off. They can't raise him, so they launch the closest thing airborne was a Prowler. They join up on him, and it's at night. And they're trying to flash lights and talk to this Hornet that's just flying by itself. And they can't. And it was actually one of the LSOs said, hey, I just kind of saw a random flash out there. It's just momentarily at about 7 or 10 miles. And they flew the rescue helicopter out there, and lo and behold, there he was. And the airplane was not on autopilot, but modern fighters, I'm sure the F-35 trims to 1G. So
yeah, I think whether it was technically on autopilot, I mean, people are going to say it's on autopilot because the jets fly themselves. I mean, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, the old Hornet just kept flying, and it eventually. I mean, I'm sure they talked about shooting it down because you got a rogue airplane zooming. It was out in the middle of the ocean, so no one cares. But it eventually did crash into the water. But yeah, and he was fine. So, but
trims to 1G. I mean, modern fighters, newer 4th gen, 5th gen fighters fly themselves. I mean,
they do.
They're autopilot all the time and this goes back to what we were talking about UPT 2.5, how the T-38 is not really representative because it doesn't fly itself. It would have just run into the ground.
But like in that case, in the story just told, that was pretty much a visual ejection. This case, these guys, I think, were, in the ATC environment, so probably a little different. I don't know if the ship was able to track that Hornet or not, but I'd be really curious if ATC was, had any pointers.
Yeah, well, they could have pointers all day, but if they don't have anybody that's airborne to go deal with it, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they could have initially, and then,
but they can at least right now they can at least be like, oh, there's the smoking hole.
Well, they know where they're like in the general vicinity, right? They know, just like a Malaysian 370 thing. I mean, they're in the vicinity. But they lose track. I will say, so the F-35B, from my understanding, is the only variant that has an auto eject feature, and I don't, I don't think that would apply here. Wombat and I were talking about this, he's busy because it's middle of the day. So I don't think it applies here because that only works in VTOL mode when he's in the hover, because the whole point of it is it knows before the pilot knows that you're in a situation where you've got like milliseconds before you're out of the envelope. So it goes up, see you later. You're out. We don't have time for this. I guess it could malfunction, but I think that's unlikely. I mean, personally, I can't imagine the two, because in order for it to keep flying off into the distance, it can't be in VTOL mode. This thing had to be in normal airplane mode.
Well, for sure, they already know why he ejected, because he's on the ground. He's probably going to tell him, he's either going to say, I was flying along and all of a sudden I was in a parachute.
I mean, dude, it's happened in the Viper where you take a leak and suddenly you're outside the airplane.
But that's what I'm saying.
The seatbelt gets caught on something, or actually that wasn't an ejection. That was the seatbelt got caught and he ended up in this continuous aileron roll and he couldn't unjam it. So he jumped out. I mean, that was,
but that's what I'm saying. It's like, they're going to know what caused the ejection. Now, in my mind, thinking about it, because they haven't found the airplane yet, I mean, any jet powered aircraft that crashes, there's going to be a fireball. So if there's no obvious fireball, it probably flew until it ran out of gas,
water,
and then
water
in the water.
The lake, in the lake.
Yeah,
so
that's a pretty big lake, man. I think Fat Amy carries a lot of gas. That's why she's a little.
That one's the one. Is that the one with the 20? No, because it's the VTOL. It has less gas than everybody else.
Yeah, still has a lot of gas though.
Just like Strike Eagle gas, 20,000 pounds. Good luck. Yeah. Well, clearly there is a book that's very similar to this, and I can't talk about it, but it's called Spectre Rising. Faked to crash.
You should buy it.
Stolen F-16 for the Chinese. Not saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
For sale. Probably on Amazon.
Anyway, Gonky. So yeah, they're still out there, and
Sir?
What?
Are we being too literal?
No, you fool. We're following orders. We were told to comb the desert, so we're combing it.
And to do the sad part is, in the world we live in today, that
was satire back in the 80s when this was made. This is like Idiocracy. It's a documentary now. Yellow light, Gonky. Yellow light.
Sorry, man. I can't.
We can't do this during the day. Okay, we've got some people in the chat. Your buddy Plexi.
Hey, Plexi. One of these days you have to send me a real clear, 4th grade level explanation of the joke that's running on me. But anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
Hey guys, that's crazy about the F-35. In unrelated news, I have a new girlfriend. Her name is Amy. She's a little fat, but boy, she'll have fun. Oh, dude.
We've all had an Amy.
MF says $5 says F-35 docs are already on the War Thunder forums. That was recent. They were just the F-117 now. I don't understand people that do that. Like, what? You know,
Won't go to
hey,
jail.
this nerd is arguing with me, so here's the whole manual. Put it on this stupid game.
Yeah. They just blur out the secret note horn
Yeah.
at the top.
Ford Trimotor says, did you hear about the Italian Air Force fighter crash? Yeah, we're going to talk about
We're
that. I
getting to
think that's
that.
next, actually. But thank you. Very tragic. And then trying to figure out
Janitor.
how to build the episode to my job. And then he's back with, did the pilot get a message that his wife and girlfriend would meet him when he lands? Wife and girlfriend.
Hopefully not
I
at the
get
same
it.
time.
No, dude, I get it. Because, you know, he gets the text like, hey, we're going to be there. And he's like, nope, I'm out. And then the jet, he's
I
like, leave the
gotcha.
autopilot on. We'll
Yeah.
see. Yeah. Can you imagine, dude? Like,
No.
so this is happening in Charleston, right? Imagine this happened. We flew Hornets in New Orleans.
Oh,
You know,
dude.
imagine you're on the east side of New Orleans, you jump out, and now your jet's gone, and you're out in the middle of some very dangerous, sketchy places with just you and your flight suit. Yeah.
You know, the whole time I'd be thinking about this is probably going to earn me a hostile renaming. This is probably going to give me a new call sign.
I'm never flying again. This is
I know.
terrible. Is that all you need to do is post a YouTube video for that? Miar.
Hey.
Oh God, I can't spell. I want to know more about Gonky's Indian bear intercept. As an Indian, I'm not aware India having a bear or any other strategic bomber. Great show.
They don't
They
have it
use it.
anymore. That was,
Yeah.
gosh, 15 years ago. Oh my goodness, 2007. So yeah, I don't think India uses the bear anymore. But
They were
had it.
using it for maritime, right? It wasn't like it was a Tu-95 variant for maritime patrol.
Yes.
I feel like I Googled this for the comments last time because I was like, Gonky's not wrong. Because everybody was like,
No,
Gonky.
dude, so like when I made the video, I was trying to find some actual Indian bear footage, and I mean, they had the bear.
Yeah, here you go. Anti-submarine warfare is what it does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but when it came to send an airplane, I mean, like the Iranians would send out a Y-12, I mean, helicopter, whatever. Like if it could fly, they would send it out towards the ship just really to test your response. Maybe get some pictures.
Well, they sure know about our response now and how we find our missing jets.
Putin's probably like, hey, Mr. Biden, would you like us to help you find your jet? Like,
the Chinese like, we're going to send another balloon.
Yeah.
There's another balloon. We find your jet.
We send 2 for you.
One each coast.
Oh,
we wait.
Dude.
We look for it. Fat Amy, come back. Yeah, put an air tag on it next time. I'm curious, like, does it, I guess the DLT is in the seat, right? So everything would be to the survivor and not to the wreckage. So
yeah, but dude, I mean, I don't know. How's our air defense radar working? I don't know. Like it's wild.
Yeah. Doesn't bode well. Marcus says 13-year vet, things don't go missing. Someone is getting fired for sure. I mean, it's not like a tool on the flight line, right? It's not like, hey, we lost a wrench, we got to shut everything down. Yeah, we lost our.
And it's not just any airplane. I mean, it's the expensive one.
Yeah. Well, it's not a B2 at least.
No.
You lose one of those, and
that's true. But still, I mean, the whole point is we don't lose.
Dude,
those.
what if it time traveled? Like final countdown. What if the
tic tac? What if the tic tac took it?
I think it's the tic tac. I think that's how we get more views. Look, we're already up to 801.
Tic tac.
Yeah, aliens have abducted this for their own research purposes.
It's that
they're turning the frogs. No, that'll for sure get us some kind of context thing. All right, moving on. Something much sadder, if you will, is the MB339 crash. I don't have the article. I just have the video, but I thought we could look at it, so to speak. It's very sad. So this is the video of it. And here we go. Looks like they're doing. So if you start at the video, this killed obviously it injured a 5-year-old and killed a 3-year-old, or vice versa. It's two very small children. If you look here, this road, I think, is the perimeter road that wraps around the airfield, and they must have just been driving by when this happened. In fact, I've got the unfortunate picture of.
Yeah, it went right across. Yeah,
it went across. Yeah, so that's the perimeter road. And you just, I mean, of all the things, of all the freak accidents, right? So you can even see the guy's in formation. I think they said might have hit a bird or something, has some kind of engine trouble. He gets out of the formation. It looks like he stayed with it as absolute long as he could to try to, know where the jet was. We talked about this with the MiG-23. And even the F-35, knowing where the jet's going to go. And because once you're out of it, it's just a projectile.
Yeah.
And
ballistic.
So it looked like he just stayed with it as long as he could and then jumped out. And just the timing. I mean, imagine how many things have to come together for a car to be driving exactly on that piece of road at that exact time as the fireball, shoots across and the wreckage and stuff. I mean, just.
Yeah,
awful.
I mean, it's sad. I mean, the crazy thing is like you said, I mean, just on that video and what I've looked at what happened, I mean, it appears he did everything he could. And, at the end of the day, I mean, if that was me, like I'd have a hard time with that, knowing that, I survived and there's kids that didn't, it's just, there's nothing good about that. I mean, because like you're saying, man, he did what we were all trained to do.
I mean, look, this is the right before ejection.
Oh yeah.
I mean, dude, he is. Yeah. Like that's last. I mean, I don't know what the MB-339 seat, but that's an old jet.
Yeah.
I'm sure the seat is not the greatest. And
I mean,
it looks like he's controlling it to go, okay, I want it to put down at the end of the back here where there's nothing. No way he could have thought that.
No.
Be a thing.
I mean, he probably thought, hey, at least it'll stay on the field.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Just
that's sad, man. I mean, that's, if you live around any airport, if it's man-made, it can fail.
They were driving.
But I know.
I mean, they're driving around. That's tough, man. I
know.
It's just,
yeah.
It makes me sad. They're a good aero team. That's a big aero team. That was a bunch of airplanes out there.
Yep.
I've talked about this with the Snowbirds about, using older aircraft, for that. I don't think that had anything to do with anything here.
No.
It's just, I mean, because anytime you take a bird, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, if that was it, I mean, like I said, man, I mean, airplane
or anything. Yeah. I mean, this was not, it didn't go into the air show crowd or anything like that. Just, I mean, a freak accident. That's tough.
I mean, Thunderbirds and Blue Angels have had crashes. I mean, it's not, and they fly more frontline kind of stuff. So,
yeah, but they're also, you're right. They're flying Super Hornets and Block 52s, I think. I think they're 52s now. I don't think they're 50s. All right. Anything else on that? I mean, just terrible, man. And keeping the sad news going.
Oh yeah.
What a terrible weekend, dude. I mean, so this one right here, Reno Air Racing Association CEO and loss of 2 pilots. It could happen to any one of us, which is true, but for the grace of God, go I.
Right.
The chairman and CEO of the Reno Air Racing Association, Fred Telling, told the Reno Gazette on Sunday that 2 pilots died. Their planes crashed just before landing, were 2 of his best friends. So it was an unfriendly formation. It's not like a choreographed routine. Maneuvering around each other and trying to find a way that they can advance and do better than the next guy. So there was a moment of silence with both pilots remaining air races. We know it can happen to any one of us as we pilots assume the risk, or we as pilots, we assume it won't happen to us, but we know it could. Elling said he and other pilots will honor Macy and rushing skill and passion. It wasn't a racing accident. It was indeed a post-race landing. Yeah, I'd read somewhere else it was like a final turn. It was a deconfliction thing, not a Reno Air Race specific thing. So to me, that's, dude, you just go through this entire race and then but that's where it gets you. Take
Yeah,
off
I
the
was going
landing
to
page.
say.
That's where the
Yeah.
guard's down.
Yep.
You know, that's where you've that adrenaline dump starting to. You're coming off that. Hey, you
Yeah.
know, we just did this, and that's where most of the stuff happens, especially final turn stuff or in the pattern in general. I mean, what do you think, Gonky? I mean,
Well, we talk about it. Like I used to use the phrase when I was an instructor. I'd say, "Okay, man, take off your BFM hat, put on your formation hat," right? Because,
yeah,
like you said, and for these guys being racers, your focus is on the race. Your entire focus is on the race, man. And you just, like it or not, you kind of give lip service to the more administrative things, like, you know, just getting to the start and landing, obviously. So, but like you alluded to, man, you let your guard down, and that's when things can get you. So, I mean,
deconfliction. You know, Reno, the Mustang crash. There were a lot of 204 guys there. In fact, one of our mutual friends was there.
you mean the one where that's the tab broke off and it went straight up?
Yeah, he went into the crowd.
Yeah, I was in Key West when that happened.
Well, the 204 was there because they were on a Fallon debt and
Really?
they'd gone to the air race. And like Bucky was one of the dudes that was like triaging people, pulling them out of the
Really?
crowd. Oh, yeah, dude. Bucky, Sully, all of the 204 guys. And, you know, they talk about it like it's war, you know, so horrific. And that one was tough to come back from because it was such a huge catastrophic event. And now on the heels of all of that, you've got they've built up around it. So they're like, well, you know, we built near an airport. We don't want an airport anymore. You know, no more racing. And so they were trying to find a new place. I don't know if they had. So this was the last one. They were saying this was it. And then they were going to find somewhere else. And to end on that note, because this ended it, obviously, ended it on the worst possible note. It's just, it's terrible, man. Obviously feel for the families and you know, friends of those killed. But, you know, Doug made a good point. I wish he were here right now, but that, you know, you assume the risk when you're a race car driver or fighter pilot, race, you know, air racer, whatever. It's the people on the ground that don't. And so, you know, we're fortunate that it was just two people and not a whole crowd again.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, that P-51 crash you alluded to, that thing was like feet away from going into the crowd and causing, you know, even more damage.
What are you talking about? The P-51? It went into the crowd.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, that's what I'm
thought
talking
it landed
about.
right in front of him.
No, that's what, like, the dudes at 204 were pulling people out of the, like, that had been killed in the crowd.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I only saw what was on the news. Yeah, man. I you know, I know that it wasn't during the race, but like I'm not a huge fan of airplane racing. Just, I mean, it is really high risk. I did the air show for the they had the Red Bull Air Races there in San Diego, and we actually got to hang out with those guys. And granted, they were doing like individual pylon racing, but I mean, you know, look at those airplanes. They're piston powered airplanes that are like beyond the limit, you know, operating very close to the ground, high speed, high G. I mean, there's a lot that could go wrong, you know?
Yeah, there's a God, I'm going to find it. There's a fascinating interview on YouTube where one of the guys who investigated the Reno Air Race crash, he was also a astronaut, so he talks about like Columbia and stuff. I have to find it, but just looking up the Reno Air Race Galloping Ghost.
Yeah, that's it.
Third deadliest air show disaster in U.S. history.
Also did kill people on the
Killed
ground.
the pilot, 10 people on the ground, and 69 people were injured.
Wow.
1972 and 1951 were the other two most deadly. But
because Galloping Ghost was what, 2010?
2011, September 16th, almost, I mean, to the day, right?
Oh, wow.
Just terrible.
Wow.
Hoot Gibson. There you go.
Yeah.
There's a Hoot Gibson interview. Dude, check it out. I mean, this guy, I wish we need to find out how to get him on the channel because good Lord, he's like incredibly sharp dude. Very fascinating. Anyway, sorry. Do you have your RMAF thing?
Yeah.
You want to talk about
we'll
that?
cheer it up a little bit. Let's see if I can do this.
Let's, we got Greg there's $2. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
It. So Gonky, take it away.
Share screen. Aha. Cope Taufan 2023 between the RMAF and PACAF. So it actually kicked off a couple days ago, but this picture is from 2014. And basically, this is exercise for the Malaysian Air Force and the US Air Force. I at first was super excited because obviously in 2014 they had Hawks, Raptors, Flankers, Eagles, Fulcrums, and Hornets. And it was pretty much, if you know, when I die and go to heaven, every day is going to be Cope Taufan 2014 for me because because you got to fight like just tons of cool airplanes.
All the jets, dude. Look at that Hornet with the
oh yeah,
blacked out charcoal gray.
Yeah, that was the paint job, man, because it was harder to see against the jungle. And look, if you notice how bad the MiG-29 smokes, that photo is not adjusted.
Look how massive the flanker is compared to everybody else, dude. That's bigger than a Raptor.
Yeah, yeah.
And the Raptor's huge. It's bigger than an Eagle.
Yeah, no, it's massive. They parked one right next to. They parked one right next to the F-18 as a display when I first got there, and I walked up to the main gear tire, and it was like.
It's like an airliner.
Like an airliner. I'm like, what is this thing? No, but so the article, it just talks about, hey, we're doing this big exercise, for training, a bunch of propaganda. But, in 23, it looks like they're only bringing C-130s and F-16s from Osan. Is that right? So they'll get a little bit of dissimilar, but I think it's a bit of a wasted opportunity for the Air Force because, they don't have the Fulcrum anymore, but it's a great chance for pretty much any fast jet guy to get some experience fighting the flanker,
Yeah. And you pointed out in the last episode, which I want to clarify, when the MKI fought, you talked about the paradigm shift where we realized it was much better than we thought. You were talking about Cope India.
Yes.
Not Red Flag. Because somebody came as a comment. They're like, oh, no, Red Flag. They didn't do Cope India. Different. Because I know what you're talking about. The early 2000s, Cope India. I was like, holy crap. We just learned a whole bunch of stuff that.
You guys do this?
It's like, whoops.
Yeah. Yeah. The Indian Air Force, those guys are, they're very, very sharp. And the RMAF guys are good too, but it's just, it's such a great opportunity that in 2014 they took full advantage of, because we just there in Butterworth there was Eagles, Raptors, Hawks, and Hornets, and it was just really fun, man, because you could you could go look at all the airplanes, and we were all there, we were all talking, and it was just a good it was good, like a big ready room experience. You learn so much, obviously for the RMAF, it was huge, right? Because the Raptor was there. That was their first experience, fighting a 5th gen airplane. That was almost 10 years ago. And then, the Eagle, it was, I just remember like coming out of my office, for a lunch break, and like into the break, and like the Malaysian break is really cool, but into the break is
whoa. What is the Malaysian break?
The Malaysian shit hot. They what we would request is low level running in and pitch, I think is what we would say, and it was 100 feet subsonic.
You could say all those words in the same sequence. Low level running in and pitch.
I usually the radios were the Wizzo's job, but
okay. I want the low level running in and pitch, dude. That's a t-shirt.
It's
that's Gonky's next t-shirt. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
You come in at 100 feet subsonic, and so we took the Raptor footage I have, so we went out and fought this Raptor, and it's so funny in the brief. I can't remember the guy's name. Great dude. This is a Hawaii Guard guy. He's like, hey, listen, on the way back, if I lead us into the break, I got to do the Air Force thing, which is like super lame. He's like, but if you lead me into the break, I'm just your wingman. And I'm like, oh, got it. And so we brought him in at 100 feet, 500 something knots. Those guys, boom, into the break. And what's funny is that went on for about 4 days. And then the Raptor hit a bird down low. And that was it. The guy there was like, no more.
Hitting birds is not a
because it did a bunch. It damaged yellow, and of course they were when they're in the jungle. It's like, well, we can't fix this thing. But but it was a tremendous experience, man. I mean, for
any
everybody.
Dissimilar is a good experience. I mean, the fact that just seeing what the other hey, we're doing it this way,
and we don't. That's my biggest beef with with DOD, man. Like I spent my entire career in the Navy studying the MiG-29 and the flanker, primarily how to fight them and beat them. Never actually got to fight them until I quit the Navy, joined Boeing, and went overseas as a civilian. Then I actually got to fight them. And then you have just, the experience I have there would be invaluable. God forbid we ever get into a real engagement, fighting real.
100%.
Because I learned real quick fighting a flanker. I'm like, you lag BFM's great, not against a flanker.
It's all about the nose.
Dude,
nose position, dude.
Shoot first and ask questions later.
Yeah.
So
that's a whole video by itself, Gonky. You could talk about.
Yeah, no, dude. But hey, hope those guys over there, the F-16 Bubbas, they're gonna have a lot of fun fighting the flanker. And flanker guys, they're gonna like fighting the F-16, especially they enjoy fighting any American because they hold us in high regard. So
that's awesome.
It's gonna be awesome. Hopefully they get some good GoPro footage. Share it. That's my plug.
But not on YouTube.
Share it with me.
It's funny you talk about going into the break because there was a guy in my old squadron in the Viper, and I'm just a lieutenant. I'm sitting here listening. He's like, "Yeah, first time I went to the Hornet, they did this thing called a carrier break," and so he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna lead you back," and he said I wasn't paying attention. The guy just kissed me off, and I was like, "What are you?" He's like, "I'm confused because of the kiss off part," and then all of a sudden I roll and pull. I'm doing 9Gs, and I'm like, "Oh God, what?" Because it was 550, 450, and the Viper will just, you go to the limiter and it's a 9G pull versus the Hornet will give you 7.5, maybe 8.
It won't bleed as fast, will it?
The Viper?
Yeah.
No, dude. It depends on what you do with your throttle. I mean, if you go idle, it'll bleed down. But if you were in burner at 800 feet, dude, you'd be accelerating and it would hurt so bad.
Well, dude, even in F-18, you come back light on the gas, dude. If you're doing 450 knots and you leave the blower in, you're not slowing down.
Oh no! You don't want to do those things. That's the
good times, man.
DCS special. Now we miss it.
Son of a gun! I want to come into the break again.
I know, dude. Well, when we buy ours, we'll come into the break every day.
Nothing's better, man, than being a new guy. I just remember being a new guy coming into the break with my skipper, and he did not. He was awesome.
We'll start a GoFundMe, Gonky.
Dude, it was I don't know.
Yeah. Look, the show's canceled, and the cause of the crash probably for a bird strike.
Oh wow, look at that.
Yeah, I knew I'd read that somewhere.
That's sad.
Okay, moving on to fatty talk.
More fatty. Oh, bigger, yeah.
Big fatties. Russian airliner was forced to land. Dude, this is fascinating.
It is fascinating.
A Russian airliner carrying 170 people was forced to crash land in a field after hydraulic failure. I'm going to ask you about this. You just finished all your training.
Annual check.
Tell me all this stuff. No one was injured, which is incredible. Which left the Ural Airlines Airbus A320 stranded next to a forest in this region of Siberia. He said he selected the landing site after the jet's hydraulic systems failed while approaching Omsk. He said, dude, I don't know Russian. I'm sorry. I never learned Russian because I like freedom. The incident sparked denials from the airline that it was unable to service its planes due to sanctions on Russia. Pictures show the airplane stranded in an open field, doors open. It was said that the unscheduled landing happened in the early hours of Tuesday. It added the landing point had been selected from the air. He said it was investigating the emergency landing. Catastrophic failure of the airplane's hydraulic systems can lead to a loss of flight control. There was backup systems, 3 hydraulic systems, 1 electric. Gonky, there's a quiz later. And then there's sanctions. It doesn't say what they're going to do to get it out. And so the reason this is so fascinating for me is because looking it up right now. So if you've watched my flight, TACA Flight 110, TACA, So back in the
Oh yeah, they're New Orleans.
yeah. So let's see,
I
what does it
landed
say?
on the dam.
1988.
Yeah,
They landed on the levee,
on the
and
levee.
Lester and I used to go fly out here because it's right by the Mishap plant where the NASA does their rocket boosters and stuff where they build it. And this thing landed, engine out, landed, and dude, they just lightened it up, flew it out.
Yeah,
Like once it was done, they lightened it up, flew it out, and this guy, I think he just retired recently. Like there was this big thing about him retiring, but it's fascinating landing this thing. Gonky, as an experienced professional, recently recurrent Airbus pilot,
barely. Keep going.
what are you thinking here, bud?
Well, what I heard was his hydraulic failure led to some sort of predicament where he thought he didn't have enough fuel to make it. So maybe I don't know. Maybe the slats were stuck down, or I don't know. Maybe the gear was down. Something, and that's why he put it.
Oh, so like, hey, so everything's out. I've got so much drag, I can't make it anywhere. I have to put this thing down before I flame out.
Pure rumor, speculation, but that's what I heard when I was down at training. We were all because the joke was like, "Hey, you think they're going to throw a soft field landing on the on the profile this year?" It's like,
dude.
So,
I mean, wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's a that's 160,000-pound airplane landing in
soft field.
Like
dude, I would get nervous landing a helicopter in a field like this, much less an A320.
I mean, I've landed the biggest airplane I've ever landed on a grass strip is probably a Seminole, and it's a light twin. And I just remember, I remember, like you said, feeling a little bit like, man, I hope the ground is not too soft, and you're bouncing around and stuff. But what we have proven here is that the Airbus, if it needs to land in the water, no big deal. If it needs to land in a farmer's field, no big deal.
Well, okay. So does that mean we don't need airports anymore and we can start diversifying where we have our service?
I'm certain, dude, that Airbus she ain't flying out of there.
So what do you do? How do you get the thing out?
Dude, it's Russia. They're going to bring out some generators and make it into a hotel. It's like,
it's just there now.
It's just there, dude.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, because look at it plowed. It's not, I mean,
I'll bring it back here.
Yeah.
So we can take
I don't think I could be wrong, but that looks like it.
Dude, really, that was muddy, soft.
Yeah.
I mean, just amazing.
And it's, you said Siberia. I mean, dude, it's about to become a popsicle.
Yeah.
What's shocking is the airplane completely stayed together. I mean, all the major parts. I mean, as we'll see here in a minute, if you land a 7.3 slightly hard, the freaking gear goes through the wing. But
yes.
But Skybus, dude, you can crush that thing in a Russian farmer's field, and she just keeps going.
Yeah, I don't have that report pulled up, Gonky. So
sorry.
Well, while we're on the fatty topic, because I won't make it another topic. Basically, what they said was it landed at 1.7 Gs, which is not too hard.
The 7.3, the Alaskan 7.3 we talked about a couple weeks ago.
But it broke a brace, and So if you land too hard in John Wayne in Orange County, you're done. But if you land your Airbus in the field,
you're good to go, dude.
You're good to go.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. It will be interesting it happened.
Dude, well, look at the picture, man. This thing's not exactly like pristine. That airplane is not like.
Well, dude, it just plowed like 500 feet of,
No,
wheat.
I'm saying, well, dude, look at that thing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I wonder how long it took people to get to them. Like the response, like the 20 people in the golf cart over here. Like how long did it actually take for them to?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things I'd like to know. How far was he from his destination? Like what were the closest airports available? what exactly was the malfunction? You know, I mean, there's no procedure, right? I mean, in the 7.3, any airline, there's no procedure that says put in the farmer's field, you know, unless you got both engines out.
Yeah.
But I mean, in his defense,
this is not the first time.
well,
Airbus, I remember this one. This one was the cornfield, right?
yeah, right. But those guys lost both engines right on takeoff, just like Sully did.
2019, after being hit by gulls during takeoff, 70 of the 230 people were injured in the crash.
Yeah.
Miracle over Raminsk.
Yeah, he landed
awards
in a cornfield.
Yeah, that's this one right here. A plane crash lands after hitting a flock of birds. This dude's got to get an award of some sort.
Yeah,
unless, unless he wasn't supposed to do that.
I think Sully still got him all beat as far as like world's greatest A320 landing. I mean, the water is probably the toughest, but cornfield and Serbian mud fields pretty tough as well.
Dude, this jet's flyable again. I mean, they just polish it up and get it on a good surface and fix whatever hydraulic problem, and he's good to go. Sully's was not flyable after that, so
yeah, I don't know. The good thing, again, thankfully, nobody died.
Yeah, and
everybody walked away. I mean, that's the important thing. I mean, so hey, at the end of the day, at least the captain, got everybody out alive.
Yeah, I don't even think you would have needed the slides, to be honest with you. They could have just walked out and got on air stairs.
The mud was soft enough. You just jump right in.
You just jump out. It's fine.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. So let's see. We're not. Thank you, Mark, for your donation to us. Thank you, Theo.
Thank you.
I don't know what AED is, but thank you. Guardsmith, here's a donation towards your impending jet purchase. Love you guys. Keep up the great work.
We'll be on a payment program for sure.
Yeah. I mean, dude, they've got like a midget Viper that Trade Plane had the other day. It was $8 million. And
it was Viper?
Yeah, it's a 3/4 scale or 2/3 scale Viper, which is funny because the Viper's already kind of a 3/4 scale jet.
Yeah.
So, but it had one Hornet engine. Like the 404 was the engine. And you could get an afterburner version or a non-afterburner version.
This is a kit plane.
This is a kit plane.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
These are life goals.
Yeah. Actually, the life goal is just to get the real Viper.
Well,
At $8 million, dude, get something. Get a T-38. Get an A4. Get something, unless you guys are watching and want to donate one to the channel for advertising purposes, then I'll take it.
Oh yeah, I'll take whatever. Cessna 150,
Aero
Coupe, whatever you got, I'll take it.
Yeah, we're not
picky.
Really need a helicopter at this point, dude. I don't have anything to fly. Janitor is back.
Thanks, man.
Talk about unusual landing. Ever see the video from the 70s where the C-130 landed on the carrier? Dude, Gonky landed Strike Eagle on the carrier.
That's true. I
mean, nothing's really impressive anymore.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Get rid of this. There. All right. Moving on. Gonky, Boeing is flight testing Red 6. And we know Red 6.
We do know Red 6.
We are friends of one of the Red Sixers.
Yes.
Well, we used to be. I don't know if he considers us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's a good dude. Great dude.
Well, he might consider you because you're still there, not me. I'm gone now. But anyway, the article is Boeing is flight testing Red 6 augmented reality dogfight training system, which I don't know why they're calling it dogfight. Boeing has begun flight testing augmented reality system that the airframer hopes to incorporate into the T-7 Red Hawk. The system, known as the Advanced Tactical Augmented Reality System, ATARS, is produced by aerospace startup Red 6. Technology concept aims to visually project imaginary aggressor aircraft onto a pilot's helmet visor, allowing them to train on air combat maneuvers. That's very European. At the 2023 Air Cyberspace Conference, both Boeing and Red 6 revealed they have integrated ATARS into a A4. We were just talking about that. Skyhawk begun testing. Successful series of ground tests and 4 flight sorties illustrate our collaborative ability to rapidly integrate, develop, and test new technology. Yates is a former Boeing F-15 pilot, thinks the ATARS technology has potential to change fighter pilot training for an entire generation. He made the case for augmented reality's potential value to flight training at the Paris Air Show. I can take something that's out there on my radar scope as it translates all the way to inside of 15 miles, and now it comes off my radar scope and I see it visually, describing how Boeing plans to integrate into the T-7's cockpit. It was founded by Raptor pilot Dan Robinson, who flew for the Air Force and the Royal Air Force. Remain focused on delivering a fully synthetic outdoor training environment. Combination of T-7 and ATARS will usher in a new paradigm for training. So there you go. Gonky, what are your thoughts on this?
I think BVR.
Beyond visual range. You got it. The acronyms, man.
Sorry.
These people don't know.
I think beyond visual range in the training commands. I think they actually looked at this. The Navy did with T-45s, and they said, "Nah, no thanks." But I do see some value BVR beyond visual range in like an airplane like the T-7, the T-45. But the within visual stuff being shown on your visor and stuff, I think it's garbage.
I would wonder about refresh rates and lag time. If you're talking anything like high update rates, because nothing's faster than the human eyeball. And so, I mean, you've seen lag time. I mean, people know about lag on video games and stuff like that. If you don't have every system synced up, you might be fighting something that, you thought was there and is not, even though it's all virtual. You're losing it. I like what they're saying about it's a good idea in beyond visual range stuff, because it gives you a good threat replication or representation without you having to send up 12, 20 airplanes, right? Because, think about the complications. We use the T-38A. Man, I cannot talk today. That's because we're doing this at noon. We use the T-38A because it was cheap, right? They called it budget dust. That's what they always said when they talked about us, and they gave us no respect as a result. So we were out there producing 8, 10, whatever jets, plus ATAC, plus Draken, plus whoever else wanted to play, plus they would augment. Sometimes they would put, red Raptors and red F-35s and whatever out there. And that gave them enough bandits. That's complicated. Right? We had to organize our forces. Everybody had to, weather, all that stuff. Imagine a world where you only need to put up a 4-ship of your flight, your guys, your 4-ship of F-22s, your 4-ship F-16s or whatever. And as long as every jet is talking to each other, so you're all seeing the same picture, you only need, the host aircraft, whether it's 1 or 2 or 0 downrange, to run all this. Everything else is just your red blip on the screen. And when you get closer, you can see it visually because it's projected in your helmet. That's about as far as part task training as you get, which I think gives you the ability to get bigger pictures without having massive forces.
Well, I mean, yeah, I get that. But the problem is that's where all your experience is made. Okay. So if you want to use this tool as an introduction tool, I think it's good. But, when it comes time to actually hammer down on real life, so it's removing the human aspect out of it. Well, guess what? War is fought with humans as of now. Maybe in the future they're not. But, there's a lot of airmanship, decision-making, thinking, flying skill that goes into just getting to the area, flying tactically within certain limitations, picking up, every day, right? The visuals are different based on sun angle, the clouds. There's so many things that some days I can pick up a tally at almost 20 miles. Some days they can be 3 feet from my windscreen. I cannot see them, right?
Contrails.
Contrails too. Yeah, exactly. So there are so many variables out there, not only in the tactical environment, but in the administrative phases of flight, just getting even the whole briefing part of it, right? As much as we hate to sit there and listen to words, the deconfliction and the you know what I'm saying? There's so much there that that they're trying to bypass. And I think that's fine early on as a stepping stone. But I think like fleet level, you can't replace the real thing, man. I mean, you can get close, but I don't think you can replace it. So, you know, in my mind, how close can you get like before, what's the rate of return basically? Is the flight hour so crazy expensive it's not worth that extra little bit? But in my mind, in war, you want, every bit of advantage you can get. So don't skimp, because it might be the difference between winning and losing in the future. But that's just, I mean, that's my professional
that
opinion.
is a good point, because I think some of the best training that I've gotten non-traditionally, I think cross countries are one of them. I look back at cross countries and think, man, that's where I got a lot of good airmanship, being alone and unafraid, and got to explore the systems in a non-tactical environment. But also when you were Red Air. So we spent a large chunk of our careers as professional Red Air, where, that's all we do. We know the tactics, we know the threats, we go out there, we replicate whatever we need to. But in the fleet or in your operational squadron, Red Air is kind of a, hey, this is going to be an easy day kind of thing, because you've got a 4V whatever, 4 F-16s, I'll say in this example, versus, whoever, 12 or whatever. And so as the blue guy, dude, you are in the books, you're studying, this is a big deal. It's usually an upgrade, right? Or something like that. But as a red guy, you open the book, you go, this is what we're doing today. I'll see it step. It's a very easy, quick thing because it's not our focus. But I will tell you, as the red guy, where you're not cuffed by the debrief anymore, you are now learning a lot, because you're seeing both sides of the picture, because you're seeing, hey, I know what he's supposed to be doing. I know what I'm doing, so I know the answer. It's like you're quizzing your buddy. I know what's happening. I know what he's supposed to do. I know what we're actually doing, and I know what SA they have, and they didn't do what they were supposed to, or they did it. And so me as an observer, I'm learning a ton. Even though I'm not manipulating, I'm still using the radar. I'm still doing all these things. So I agree with you in that even when you're not directly training, there's value in just putting a jet in the air and doing it.
Dude, so like the perfect example, I talked about it earlier. I spent 10 years studying the MiG-29 and the flanker.
Yep.
I played them in video games, even, back then, 12,
DCS.
15 years ago. I will tell you, the first time I merged with a real MiG-29, the first time I merged with a real flanker, it's different.
Yeah.
Like I can't.
The shock factor, just the shock factor. I mean, the first time I saw a Raptor, you're like,
yeah.
I mean, it gives you that little bit of a adrenaline dump.
Exactly. And same thing, like any naval aviator will tell you, the first time you go to the boat, because they're, we practice it in the sim, we practice it in the field. Yeah. But when we go to the actual boat, it's different. And you just can't, you can't replicate. At least we can't now, at least with the technology we have. Now, I don't know, Red 6, I mean, like Mover said, we know at least one of the guys there, and he's just super smart. I don't know the level of technology that they're using, but I seriously doubt it can take the place of actual experiences. I think it's fantastic for initial training to kind of get your head wrapped around, oh, this is what a lot of airplanes look like, beyond visual range.
But dude, so as with everything else, unintended consequences, right? So sometimes you get stuff out of stuff you never intended. And by that, I mean, all this is trons. The jets have to talk to each other in order for the picture to make sense. The jets have to talk to the visor. So is there now a way that you can tron this and making the enemy think something that's not? Like, can you develop this technology into something more advanced as you go, to where it's not a training tool, it's an offensive or defensive weapon? So, I love the development of it. I do think that there's a lot of value in what they're doing. And I agree with you that there's no replacement for reps. And one of the things I liked, which we didn't have a whole lot of access to when I was down at Homestead, was 4-ship linked simulators. Because I agree with you, hey, nothing beats the APU start and all that stuff that you have to do to get to the airspace, and then that airmanship of staying in the airspace and all that stuff, because you're gonna have to deal with that. But for just pure repetition, getting in a simulator where they start you out in the cap in the combat air patrol, in the orbit, and your jet's already loaded, the enemies are already downrange, you're already connected to your other 3 buddies in the sim, and you're just practicing, going downrange, doing your tactics, coming back, picture clean. Just reset the sim. Repetitions like that are great for muscle memory.
Oh yeah, we did tons of that in the Navy at the RAG. All 4 linked up. I mean, you're right.
Yeah.
It's super valuable, man. Because guess what, too? If things go sideways, you go, hey, pause it, and he stops.
Well, and also too, as opposed to in the air, where sometimes we have to come back to the debrief to assess, your sim turns red. When you die, you get the red sim, and you're like, it's not moving. What's going on? It gives you that immediate feedback of, okay, I don't want to do that. Okay, and the sim weapons replicate you're not looking at tables or all that stuff, trying to remember. It's like,
it's
dude, he shot me at this range at this time and I died, or I shot him and he died, or whatever the case may be. So I do think there's a mix of both. What I think Red 6 is trying to do is trying to take the value of repetitions that we get from the simulator and putting them in the air.
Yeah, and which I think is great for training.
It just depends on how it like everything else, man. It's going to depend.
Yeah. I don't know. For CAF guys, right? This is what they say in the Air Force, or fleet guys in the Navy. I think you cannot beat real people in red air machines. I know it's more expensive, but I mean, if you want the absolute best, that's what you're going to have to do. I mean, at the end of the day, but I know it's expensive. I don't argue that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
We were the cheapest mover. They got rid of us.
Not only did they get rid of us, but they never mind. Moving on, back to, is there a USN carrier capable jet that has anti-submarine capability? Used to be the S3, right? That was
used to be the S3, and now I think the helicopter took its role. I mean, I guess if you could see it, you could drop bombs on it with a Hornet or Super Hornet, or an F-35. But I mean, that's why the carrier is part of a battle group. The battle group's got all kinds of stuff to handle.
Well, now they're doing it with the P8, right? That's the latest thing.
Yep.
Below the waterline, people make fun of LARPers, but that's 3/4 of military training. Oh, it's more than that. It's more than 3/4. It's like all of it. LARPers are people that pretend, Gonky.
Yeah.
I see the wheel turning here. Live action role play is what it's.
I don't want to get in trouble. Thanks, man.
Thank you, but next. And then George, $20 is $20.
Thanks, George.
Appreciate it. All right. Moving on to I can't get rid of this comment. Dude, we're lost without Douglas, I tell you what.
Oh, yep. Covered.
All right, dude.
Ooh.
So in the last, this is kind of like some academics here. Unclassified for sure, if I can share the screen correctly. So I thought we would talk about the MiG-31, and the reason specifically for this aircraft, and maybe we'll start talking about, we'll do like a little section on various quote unquote enemy fighters as we go, because last time we did, what video was that? It was the Su-35 versus the Viper. Somebody said all the Vipers are going to get shot down because the MiG-31's out there shooting hypersonic missiles and no can defend. It's the thing. So I was like, well, let me look at this, because the last time I had looked at a MiG-31, it was kind of a joke. Like, it wasn't something that I was real worried about as a fighter pilot, because it wasn't made for me. As a Viper guy, I'm like, okay, well, BVR, not a big deal. If I have to turn with it, really not a big deal. I'm not really scared. So I went and looked, and I just picked a random article and thought we can talk about just some of it. Have you ever fought one or experienced one at all?
No, sir.
All right, so it is a long-range, two-seat supersonic interceptor aircraft offered by the Russian Aircraft Corporation, previously MiG, for the Russian and Kazakhstan Air Forces. It started its life in 1975. It was a VFR and IFR day and night, capable with the first Soviet fighter to have true look-down, shoot-down capability. There's more than 500. They were in Syria. They developed it. It was unable to, the MiG-25 couldn't fly at low altitude, so they were like, hey, let's build this thing. The design is welded nickel steel, titanium, aluminum alloy, and 2% composites. It's kind of like a big girl. You know what I'm saying?
She can land in a field, no problem.
Yeah. Mini variants. They've been used to train astronauts, conduct research. They have commercial satellite launch variants, upper atmosphere, space tourism, all kind of stuff. MiG-31E is an advanced version of the MiG-31. And then the E has a phased array radar. So that's pretty darn cool.
I think the MiG-31 was the first fighter to have an ESA.
Yeah, I think it's passive, PISA, passive electronically scanned versus active. So the MiG-31M, it upgraded with a number of CRTs and increased number of missiles. Still high-speed, multifunctional, long-range fighter aircraft, can destroy air and ground targets. It has a HOTAS now, which, if you know anything about Russian fighters, historically they do not. They're not very HOTAS or user-friendly.
Let's hide the switches in the cockpit.
Yeah. I mean, so it had an anti-satellite missile developed as part of the U.S. ASAT program. Large single missile beneath its fuselage. And then 2 MiG-31 Bravo Mikes entered in 2019. Multi-mode radar, HOTAS, controls, multifunction display. It's got a Wizzo. What does a Russian Wizzo do?
A Rizzo. No, I'm kidding.
All right, so this is where we get into kind of the meat and potatoes of this thing. Gonky, do you, when they translate, I always have trouble with this. When they translate to Vempel R33, do you have to go Google it and be like,
oh yeah, well,
what is the NATO? Because all the DCS people, everybody's like, it's an R33. I'm like, I have no idea what that is. Tell me that in NATO terms,
dude. Even the real stuff, like
what?
They change it from like this is what the Russians call it, this is what the Chinese call it. This I'm like, dude.
Yeah. All right, so that's a semi-active radar homing missile. Used to take out the Bone, the B-52, and the SR-71. It has 4 short-range R-60 MK missiles and 2 Biznavat R-40 TD1 medium-range missiles, a 6-barrel 30 Mike internal cannon with 800 rounds. That's, dude, 800 rounds.
This is a big airplane, though, man. If she can carry the rounds.
Yeah. Okay. Well, 10,000 rounds a minute. It can accommodate the Adder. I know that one. AA-12. That's one we know.
Finally.
Saying a thing. And then the AS-17 Krypton anti-radiation missile. So the radar is the flash dance, operates from the rear cockpit by the Wizzo. It can scan 200 kilometers, which is about 100 nautical miles-ish. Don't check my math on that. But it's a fixed antenna that can be moved electronically. Electronic steering of the radar beam is much faster and accurate than mechanical steering. And it's got electronic countermeasures. It also has an ERST, which is pretty Russian standard. Track wall scan, ERST, RWR, all that stuff. Supersonic aircraft. And that's the big thing, is it can go low altitude, Mach 1.2, or fly high, fast, do good work. And so really what people keep bringing up is because this has been like the star of the Ukraine war, the R-37, aka the AA-13 Arrow. And if you look at it, it says right there, the AIM-54 Phoenix. It's hypersonic, dude. And which made me think, well, what's hypersonic mean? And I guess the technical definition is anything over Mach 5. So that's why it's a bigger deal than like an AMRAAM or something like that, which is not quite that fast. But here's what I'll say. That's great, but you're not shooting down fighters at 100 miles with this thing. You just, unless they're unaware, you don't have the energy
Well,
to
dude, so
do
we
it.
used to make fun of the Tomcat guys, right?
Yeah.
Right? They're like, "Oh, the Tom, he shit, whatever." It's like 100 miles. And we're like, "Dude, yeah, but if I maneuver more than 3 degrees, it's not gonna
Yeah.
hit." And he's like, "You're missing the point, dude. We're targeting and shooting things like other targets that don't even know they're targeted yet."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Valid."
Yeah. I mean, so it's designed to shoot down your AWACS and your tankers.
Yeah.
Your support assets that are back behind the, the
Right.
enemy lines kind of deal. The Vipers aren't going to have a problem with this unless they're just totally unaware.
Well, dude, if you look at the MiG-31, it's actually I mean, I don't know. My opinion, it's an excellent design for what it's designed for, right? It's designed to fly low and fast or really high and fast and shoot down large targets. And I mean, I can't speak for F-16, but MiG-31 up in the 50s doing Mach 2. I mean, you're
Yeah.
not intercepting a MiG-31 and an F-18. I mean,
Right.
it'd be like, hey, as he goes zooming by it like
I
twice.
I can't get the turn. You got to start your turn at 25 miles because
Yeah.
he go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you might if you take the picture at the right time. Yeah, there's a MiG-31. There he is. He's gone. So, like, it is that's an interceptor, right? So, I mean, now MiG-31, don't come down in the 20s and get in a turning fight with me because you're gonna lose big time.
Right.
So, as a and like you said, man, it was designed in the 70s.
It's the high fast flyer that you worry about, though. That's the thing. It's like he's putting a lot of energy on whatever he's shooting.
Yeah.
Because it's like an F-14. I mean,
Yes.
dude, we should have the F-14 back.
Tomcats.
Tomcats. I volunteer to fly the F-14 Echo now. Single seat variant.
Well, dude, listen, you need a Rio to hold the camera, right? I mean, the GoPro handles
with
great.
AI, dude. Not with AI and 360 cameras. I know. I can film my own merges now.
And I mentioned that. I think it's the last show. It's like pure fighter, pure attack, right? So this is what you get, right? So like, I'm like you, like I read the MiG-31, I'm like, oh, this thing, it can't turn, it's got, it's too heavy, blah blah blah. But dude, if a MiG-31 pilot stays in his environment and executes interceptor tactics, it can be a pretty good airplane.
And I think that's how it applies to the current Ukraine conflict because, dude, they can sit back 100 miles in Russia and you can't. The Ukrainians don't have a whole, like they're limited to where they can go.
No.
And they don't have any support assets anyway. So, now you can be in Russian territory and reach out and touch our support assets, our AWACS, the guys that are just skirting borders and stuff, just not in the airspace, but they're close enough. That's where the threat is. It's not necessarily that you've got this, high maneuverability missile that no can defend.
Right.
That's for closer in. This is just for you're unaware. It's like the SA-5. It's not. You're not going to get the big telephone pole that it's not for you. But if you don't know about it, it could make you have a very bad day.
Well, if you read there's some really great stories about the Iranians using the Tomcat against the Iraqis. And that's exactly because the Tomcat had the big radar and the big stick, and they would hang back and lay waste. But like you said, you gotta. I mean, it's a very specific tool,
right?
And you got to use it as such.
I mean, it's not ideally, and this is where I'm definitely don't want to get anything that's going to put us in jail. Ideally, you would have a maneuverable missile that can go long ranges that cannot be outmaneuvered like this. So this is the AIM-54 where you can outmaneuver it. Ideally, where I would be worried is if you had, the AIM-120 ski that could do these kind of ranges, and in-game energy is still high.
Well, I wonder. Okay, what if they shoot me at 50 miles? I mean, can it turn then?
I don't know. I don't think it can. I mean, if you look at, I don't think it's not a turning missile.
No, it's made for big targets.
Yeah, it's not a turning missile. So that's why it's not. because if they get inside that 50 miles, they're now they're talking a different of their inventory.
Right.
But still something you worry about. I mean,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
you don't worry about it. You take it seriously. I guess that's the thing. You always take everything seriously and make sure that, you're not.
You have to, man. I mean, like I said, the MiG-31, if the operator is crazy and comes down into the 20s and thinks he's going to get in a phone booth with an F-16 or an F-18, it ain't going to work. But you got to know, man's got to know his limitations.
I am surprised that they have upgraded this. When I was reading about it, I mean, it's
still being used.
But that's what they have to do. I mean, if people like this.
But they're saying that about the Eagle. They're like, I can't believe the Americans are still using the Eagle.
Yeah. Well, and that was my argument about the Viper. I don't think we should have stopped producing the Vipers because I think you need the jack of all trades in large numbers as well as the specialist. You need the day one of the war jets and you need the day 69 or 690 day war, day of the war jets.
Well, I would argue that the Hornet and the Viper, because they're basically they're designed for the same job, which is basically a light attack airplane with really good self-protect ability. That's really what they are. They're not really, they're not really interceptors, right. They're not really A-10s, right? But they can carry a bomb load in and successfully defend themselves if needed. And that
self-escort strike. Yeah.
Self-escort. That's
self-escort
exactly
strike.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool.
Nice to have real fighters though, and real A-10s, right? That's why the Eagle and the A-10 are still here
for now.
But dude, they're both from before we were born. I mean, the early 70s, man.
Everything is before I mean, even. Yeah. All right. Moving on. Let's talk. We're going to voice messages based on the time.
We got a voice message.
We will talk about the Hornet versus Viper on a later date. I didn't realize we would have so much stuff to talk about. So in a future episode, I will break down. Gonky, you can do it like an interview. We can ask each other questions. Not today. Are you Batman? And I'll be like, yes, I am Batman. All right, here's our first.
Hi, Mover, Gonky, and Wombat. ABH3 back here again, CV62. As aircraft directors, you are expected to park your aircraft on the first attempt. And woe is unto you if you were ever to get a pushback on the CAT. So much so, you might get called out on the radio. So I was wondering if you guys do anything similar to that, like, say, a consecutive 3-wire traps, or consecutive landings without bolters. You keep any sort of brag sheets throughout the squadron to keep track of that information. Anyway, love you guys' show. Take care. And Tomcats.
Well, we love you too. But this is a Gonky question.
You've started something. So yeah, there's a greenie board, right? Where every trap on the ship is graded. After every landing, like before you debrief, actually, you get your quick debrief from the LSO. And I was taught very early on, like, you get your ass up out of the seat, put down your cheeseburger, stand in front of the LSO and take your pass like a man. I mean, literally, that's what I was told. And I was like, okay. And that's how literally everybody does it. And you never argue with them, even though they're wrong sometimes. That being said, believe it or not, my fleet squadron, we didn't have a greenie board in the squadron.
What?
So yeah, crazy. I know we didn't have one. Although we had our solid ball flyers and we had our not so solid ball flyers. I'm extremely proud of the fact that I achieved the ace of aces, which sounds awesome because the ace is the 1-wire. And when you catch the 1-wire, you get a no grade, which is like getting a D. So I tagged 5 of those bad boys in a row. And which is actually, everyone's like, you're super close to hitting the back of the ship kind of thing. But I bypassed that big wire. So
Air Force guy, that's frowned upon, right? You're not supposed to hit the back of the ship.
No. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just that good, dude. I'm not going to pass up.
Just checking.
But But yeah, so much so that on my 6th attempt to grab the one wire, I'll never forget it. Our squadron LSO 7 is at night, of course, and he's on the back, and I'm getting ready to do my my Gonky 1 arrival, which was DCS players take note.
Oh,
Center
boy.
ball till in close, man. I would Hornet DLC, so you just crack the wings. That would destroy your vertical component lift for you science nerds. And then I would catch it, and I would go right into blower. I mean, and by the time the blower stage, they'd be fully staged as I'm coming down the round down, right into the ace. It was like perfect, man. And just get ready to crack the wings, and he just power. And like, you know, as a naval aviator, you're trained, like your left hand only listens to the voice. And so like I immediately give it a big shot of power. And I think I got a 3-wire, something lame, right? So yeah, he saved me from getting 6 in a row. But the LSOs and the CAG LSO, so the LSO who was in charge of basically the landing performance of all the squadrons on the ship, they had all the scores, and they would send them out. You could look where you stood, and you know, I was the bottom 25% in my squadron for grades, but I was like numero uno for my getting aboard. So I always got aboard. In fact, I only bolted one time in my entire fleet.
Nice.
I take that back. My deployed fleet carrier experience, I only bolted one time, but I had a lot of no grades. So my grades were low, but my boarding rate was high, which I had a cheeseburger one night with CAG LSO, and he told me, he's like, man, I'll take a 1-wire over a bolter any night. And I was like, what? You guys are okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, man. So that's kind of a long story to answer your question, but
you want to hear the Air Force version of that?
Boats are dumb.
we would track obviously our arrival rates and
really?
our instrument landing system, like how many good ILSs we flew.
No, you don't.
Of course not, Gonky, because landing is admin, dude. Nobody cares. Did you arrive alive? Yes. Okay, next question.
No. They care in the Navy, dude, because they got to keep
because that's your whole mission.
They got to
your
keep
entire mission is takeoff and landing. You don't do anything tactical in the Navy.
No,
you spend more time on admin than you do on the actual.
No. So that's the other thing. So on a combat cruise, right?
My Top Gun's only 6 weeks.
Well, the Air Force Top Gun's 9 months because they talk about weather 6 times before every flight. I experienced the reason why the Air Force Top Gun is so much longer.
Okay.
But anyways,
yeah,
they
shots fired.
Yeah. No. I forgot what I was gonna say, man. You got me all flustered.
I had to do it, dude.
No, you're talking about briefing, right? So combat cruise, the whole brief is about the mission, and then at the end they'd be like, come back for case we recover. Any questions? And you're just like, no. But there's an entire phase of training just for landing on the boat that they do in the RAG. So at the end it's just admin, but it's stressful admin.
Good for you.
Yeah. Sorry, long answer.
No, it's great, dude. This will be on the Ready Room live here in the next couple days, so people will appreciate that. All right, moving on to the next thing.
Thanks
We've got
for the
a
question,
couple.
man.
Yeah, dude, that was great. If you ever want to send us stuff, it's the links in the description. It's a Spotify thing. You record it and turn the volume up. That's all I'll say. This guy, I have no control over it. It was a little low, but you can do it. Links in the description. You can give us a voicemail, and we will 100%, unless it's like really bad, we'll do it. I've yet to find one that's really bad though. Samurai Samoria Mario,
Thanks,
thank you. $5 is $5. Daniel says the Russian Wizzo is the in-flight snacko, also brings the vodka. Is that not all Wizzos?
I bring you vodka and pretty girl.
Vodka and snacks. I bring vodka and snacks.
I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then God, dude, this is. I wonder what that exchange rate is.
What currency is that?
Rupees? What's the Indian?
I don't know.
Is that Indian? I don't, dude. I'm so uncultured. I feel like I should know stuff, but I don't. It is said.
Movers from Louisiana, everybody. Don't.
Dude, I am. I'm not a cultured man at all.
Mama
Anyway,
said. Sorry, go ahead.
alligators are ornery because he got. Anyway, it is said that in Desert Storm, the Iraqi Air Force didn't come to flight in full force. If the Iraqi Air Force would have responded in full force, how much difficult would Desert Storm be?
Well,
Gonky.
so what you're referring to, and I've read this myself, is because the Iraqis had spent like 15 years fighting Iranian Tomcats when
Tomcats,
obviously they could identify that on the raw gear. So when they saw that with the Americans, they didn't want anything to do with it, right? So, the fact that they didn't come out and fight in full force, I don't know. That's probably debatable because, when they kicked off that war, I mean, one of the first things you do is try to cripple their air defenses, and you do that.
and all.
Yeah, you do that in various ways. You can blow holes in the runway or take out some of their infrastructure, knock out some of the fuel stuff. So, whether they came up in full force or not, who knows? But they did come up to fight, and it didn't work out so well for them. But there's a whole bunch of great interviews you can listen. I mean, those guys are obviously all still alive. I listened to all their interviews of those fights for real, and the Iraqis, they weren't terrible. They just didn't win. So
Ben has informed me this is Iranian.
it's a real.
Yeah.
Look at that. Whoa, that's a lot of point. Yeah.
So for 69 cents, you just answered.
That's fine, man.
The Iranian. They just got a bunch of
Wait.
$1 billion from us for some
Like
prisoners.
today's dollars? Because today's dollars don't even, dude, I can't.
Yellow light, Gonky. Yellow light.
Yeah. The dollar ain't.
George says, bring back the upgraded F4 Phantom.
George must be friends with Frenchie.
Yeah,
I love the F4. Thanks, George.
Well, so that's a good point about the Tomcat. I was just joking about I'd like to fly the F-14E with single seat and all that stuff. But dude, that thing was like a maintenance nightmare.
Well, dude, because it was designed in the late 60s.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. It's like,
but it's like you take an airplane like that and modernize it, right? I mean,
Block 70 Viper, dude.
I mean,
dude, the Viper only needed, when I flew that thing, and we'll talk about this when we actually go into that, the F-16 only needed a better radar. It was a great airplane otherwise. It needed more fuel and a better radar. And from what I understand, they fixed both of these things with conformal fuel tanks and, the two back. Because we had, I never flew the Super Hornet, but the Legacy Hornet had about the same endurance as the Viper. I mean, it had way more gas, but it burned. I mean, when you figured it out, it just needed a better radar, and I flew the APG-68. It was not, the Block 50 version of that. So it had a different signal processor and all that stuff. But if we had a better radar, dude, it's honest to God, you don't need in today's environment, you need good missiles. That's what you need.
Yeah, well, that was the whole idea behind the Super Hornet, right? So they gave you the better radar, they gave you the more fuel, and oh, it's slow.
But
yeah,
I'm
it's
just
good.
saying,
It's a fantastic airplane. I love it, but
I'm saying a Block 30 big mouth, right? With all the thrust, 29,000 pounds of thrust, and the thing weighs, 21,000 pounds in an air-to-air configuration, roughly. Dude, you don't need all the extra stuff. You just needed a radar that could see and not drop lock. That's it.
Or mover, you needed a radar that could see, and
that's what I'm saying. You needed a radar that could see.
Well, yeah, but maybe the radar. Never mind. Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? Airplane design, everything's a compromise, man. Like you can't. It's like the Boeing guys. With the conformal tanks on the Super Hornet, the International Roadmap Hornet. When I worked at Boeing, I was like, oh, what's the drag penalty on that? Oh, no drag. I'm like, what?
Yeah, right.
And that's what I said. And I asked them about the pylons. They're like, yeah, we figured out there was no drag penalty there either. I'm like, dude, listen, I know I'm from backwoods Ohio, almost West Virginia, but like, dude, I'm pretty sure there's some drag there, dude. So, I mean, everything's a compromise, man.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so it is Indian. I was right. I am not uncultured. It was a rupee. So thank you, oh ye of little
Thanks,
faith.
man.
Yes, and thank you for
He's
that.
educating us, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm learning things. All right, so moving on to our mental health minute today. Since we've accomplished all these things. Today we're going to talk about spatial disorientation. I'm going through all the different parts of our special interest items because I think they apply to life. We've talked about, the task saturation, complacency, misprioritization, stuff like that. But spatial awareness is important in the jet and in life. There's no worse feeling in the world than you're on somebody's wing and you start getting the leans and you're in the weather and you don't know which way is up. There's no worse feeling than on a clear VFR day and you're over the water and there's no clouds and it's like a mirror and you don't know which way's up, which way's down. And that can be said for life as well, where you're going through a turbulent time. You're going through, everything seems foggy. Nothing seems clear. You don't know what's ahead of you. And you kind of don't know which way is up because life's just it's not going well right now. And what we talk about, because there's different types of spatial disorientation. There's the kind you don't know about, where it just happens. You think you're doing the right thing. Next thing you're running into the ground or water or whatever. There's the incapacitating kind where, you're just so messed up that you just can't function. You're just spiraling into the ground. In fact, I had Stinky Smith on the channel a while back, and that's what happened to him. He was doing an our maneuver in the F-16 at night, and he got spatial disoriented, and he just did this big corkscrew into the water, and he ejected like 0.69 seconds before he was out of the window. So we talk about that, but then how do you get out of it? And what I always remember is recognize, confirm, recover. So recognize that you're in that position. Confirm with your instruments, because we have to trust our instruments at this point, unless you're flying a T-38A, in which case maybe not.
You're done.
And then recover. You're basically going to the sky pointer, rolling to the nearest horizon, pulling, you use your afterburner, depending on, whether your nose low, nose high, or whatever. But you recognize, confirm, recover. And in life, when you have this situation where I'm spatially disoriented, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what's going on, I don't know which way's up, we have to step back, just like we talked about the 6 Ps, which Deuce reminded me it's not pause, it's point, because we point everybody same way, same day, but same thing, pause, point. But we have to, that was the weapons school answer. We have to, I failed that right. But we have to recognize that we're in this situation. We have to go, look, I'm in a bad spot right now. And then we confirm what the situation is. And this is kind of a point where I'll say, this is where you need to start bringing in people that can help you, whether it's mental health advocates, psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors, friends, family. Confirm that they're there for you and confirm your situation and a way forward, and then recover. You have to take it day by day, piece by piece, and whatever's going on, you don't try to tackle the whole thing all at once. You try to break it down into its smallest pieces, and then eventually you'll be able to get through it, because it's usually just a function of time and effort. And if you take those two things and use the tools and assets that you have available, September is Suicide Awareness Month. So I'm going to throw another pitch out for 988. I'm going to throw another pitch out for bringing your wingman into the fold, bringing your friends and family. Don't make a temporary problem permanent, and not just for you, but for them, because you're not just affecting yourself when you make that decision. You're affecting everybody that cares about you. You're affecting everybody that loves you. And even though it may seem like it's a dark time, there are people out there that care, and there are people out there that will try to help you, even if you don't even know them. I just watched a video of a veteran that was pulled over on the side of the road, and a trooper got out with him, and he said, I just need a hug. And he gave him a hug, and he's like, I don't want to go to the hospital because I can't afford it. And he's like, no, the state will cover that. Let's get you the help you need. And that is the point. You may have these preconceived notions about what it means to go get help, but I guarantee you it's better to recognize, confirm, recover, and that recovery of getting help than it is to suffer with it or make a poor decision. So, Gonky, what you got, man?
Yeah, no, man, all that's good. You know, the whole crux really behind the recovery is you got to have a solid reference point that's real and that it's valid, right? So you talked about flying the T-38, and the problem there was our reference points. We didn't trust them either. So a great thing they would do in the Navy, I'm not sure if they did in the Air Force. Did you do the helo dunker, Moober? Oh, it appears you have. So what they teach you is, you know, they blindfold you. You can't see. They throw you in this helicopter, drop you in a pool, flip you upside down. Now you got to get out. So, you know, when you go upside down, they always tell you don't lose that reference point. You got to hang on. As soon as if you let go your reference point, you're done. You have no idea which way is up, sideways, whatever, because you don't have your you know, you can't see. So, hey, how does that apply in life? Well, you always got to have. I think we talked about last week about always striving to surround yourself with good people, because when you like when the freaking place is burning down and you need to call somebody, like, just for like what's happening, like the people you call, you know, it shouldn't be your drug dealer, you know. Shouldn't have one of those anyways, but you know, it should be somebody that has always been, you know, like your rock. Yeah, it could be your grandma, it could be your dad, it could be your you know, it could be your pastor, it could be, you know, but you know, it's always a good idea also before things go sideways to kind of have these people in your mind, like, hey, if I ever get a little crazy, like, I'm calling this person for family stuff, this person for work stuff, because you know, you don't want to be figuring this out while you're flailing. That's probably the worst place to be. So you know, in aviation, even if you get your private pilot, I mean, they hammer down on how to recover from spatial disorientation, because it will kill you in an airplane, and it will, I mean, it could kill you in real life too. Just, you know, if you lose, you know, if you lose your, you're essentially losing your SA, right? Your situational awareness, which basically means, you know, what's happening to you, what you feel is happening to you really isn't happening, right? So, yeah, like Mover said, get some help. Just make sure that the whoever you call is, you know, is somebody that that's grounded in whatever it is that you're dealing with, and get the help.
Yeah, grounding is a very common psychological term as well. I mean, even to the point of go walk barefoot on grass, or, you know, in the sand on the beach, whatever. It's about bringing yourself back to, you know, a reference point, something objective, you know, and that's what we talk about with the recognize, confirm, recover. We're bringing ourselves back, because we can have these misperceptions of what's going on, you know, your inner ear, you know, your illusions, visual illusions, whatever. I talked about the, you know, the calm water versus the clear sky. Sometimes the visual illusion will make you think that, you know, one way's up because it's just reflections. But we get those, and we need to have some objective reference point to bring us back to reality. And in the jet, that's our instruments most of the time, as long as it's not T-38A. But in reality, it's, you know, what you talked about, your friends, family, you know, priest, faith, whatever it is that grounds you back into your 000, you know, your being centered. In helicopter flying, you brought up a good point where you're talking about aviation, but we did this whole thing because we've had 2 mishaps now recently here in the local area of spatial disorientation, controlled flight into terrain, where a good helicopter pilot, a lot of experience, you know, one hit the wires, one, you know, spatial D'd in the ground. And the Heli Expo folks, the HAI guys, talked about the 56 seconds to live is once you get into the soup, you know, and you're not instrument rated, you're not used to all this stuff. And again, can apply to life, where you get into a bad situation you're just not used to dealing with. You've got 56 seconds to figure it out. You got the rest of your life to figure this out. And so before we get to that point, one of the things is taking the ego out of it. And in helicopter flying, we do that with the land and live. You know, if you can't turn around, you know, because maybe the sloping terrain or whatever, the clouds are moving in, you can't declare an emergency, IMC, or whatever it is. They just go, you're in a helicopter, dude, land. land and live. Land, make that embarrassing phone call, and then live to fight another day. And sometimes in life, we have to say, uncle, take ourselves out of that situation and live. And by that, I mean, okay, I may go get help and I may not be able to do whatever job, especially pilots, right? Because we're always afraid of the FAA. You know, if I go say, hey, I need help, that may take me out of the cockpit for 6 months or whatever, as I'm dealing with, you know, antidepressants or whatever it is, whatever your situation is. It is better to do that, land and live, and take that time and make that embarrassing phone call than it is to deal with it for the rest of your life, because you will have the rest of your life to figure it out, and it may not be very long. So that's all. That's my pitch for that today. Anything else?
Like it.
Yeah.
Nope.
These are always interesting. I mean, I don't want it to be preachy, you know, but I do think that we need to discuss it as pilots, because mental health is something that we're afraid to talk about.
Yeah. And you know what's fun? I mean, as I become more, you know, as we became more experienced, I think it became less of an issue. I actually did you see a lot of this stuff in the beginning phases of flight training, because you don't know how to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I remember talking even with Wombat stuff, you know, it's like, how in the, so, but yeah.
Unable.
Yeah.
No, you
No
know, the
can
most
do.
powerful word in the English language is no.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you have to be able to say no. You have to be able to know your limit. You know, you said it earlier, man's got to know his limitations. It's better to be on the ground wishing you were up there like we're all right now than
Dude,
wishing you were down here, because I've been both places. And you know, I'll take, you know, the memories over, oh God, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah, you know, I was a safety officer, and I went through safety school in the Navy and stuff, and like having read lots of accident reports, like the one thing that I've taken away from it is like way better to be precautious and just land and get made fun of by your peers than not to.
If only you look at the AIB reports and the SIBs, you go, if only somebody had said no.
Yeah.
If only somebody said, dude, this is stupid.
Yeah.
You know, why are we pushing this? And sometimes it's us as the senior, you know, field grade officers. We've got to go, dude, this is dumb. This does not pass a common sense test.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've even said that before and then still flew. And I felt like the whole time, I'm like, this is so stupid.
I knew it. Yeah. You're like, I knew it. I always think of T-Baron as ominous. I told you.
Yeah,
I told you, you know, you knew this.
I told you.
Anyway. I knew it. All right. We got some chats here before we wrap things up this evening. Thank you, G. Kala.
Thank you.
And then albino polar bear. This is a good question, Gonky.
That's awesome.
Because you just had some experience this weekend. Was it hard, so to speak, transitioning to a commercial pilot from being a fighter pilot, and do the airline companies create training specializing in training for this? Did you get specialized Gonky training?
No. And with it's such the weirdest dynamic, because I don't tell, like, okay, I had my annual check in the airplane like 2 days ago.
Yes. Tell us that story. Tell us the rest.
No, I'm not telling that story. But so, you know, there's lots of things I don't know. Right. And so I called one of the check airmen here in my base, and we're talking, and he's like, dude, just tell him you're an F-18 pilot. He'll be so blah, blah, blah. And that's like the perception, right? It's like, as soon as like that comes out that I flew Hornets, you know, because the place I'm at, mostly it's not military guys. And, you know, they hold you in really high regard. And then I'm like, this is going to be like such a letdown when they see me actually fly this thing.
Wait till you see me fly around with the gear down.
Yeah, pretty much. Watch this, dude.
It's different.
Yes. Yeah. So it is a tough transition. And what's so funny, they asked me in the interview, I don't know if I told you this before, but they asked me in the job interview, they're like, having no transport experience, do you think you'll be able to pass the training? And I just said,
did they really?
Oh yeah. And I said, wow. I just said, well, you know, that remains to be seen. But I said, I've never not been able to pass any formal training flight course. And they're like, okay. And the only reason why I got through training without any fails, I managed to get through without having to redo anything, barely. But it's because my sim partner was like, he was phenomenal, and he spent a lot of time ramming
Okay.
121 stuff in my head. But and the whole reason why, and I think Mover can say this, is it's completely different types of flying. I
Very much
mean,
so.
like Mover makes fun of me. Like, I still have a hard time getting the gear and the flaps up all the way in an airliner because it takes forever. In a fighter, as soon as the tires come off the ground, gear flaps up. Doom, done, and I'm done. We're done. I do the quick takeoff check in my head. I'm done. I'm good. Now I'm off to bigger and better things, right? Lock them up, test you up, all this other cool stuff, right? But in the airliner, it's like, first you got to ask to put the gear up, and then you put the gear up, and then you talk about the lights on the gear, and then after that you're waiting.
The lights on the gear.
Yeah, right. He tells you, hey, positive climb. I reach, gear up. So I put the gear up and I'm waiting for but I don't say gear up until I see the light. Dude, these are all procedures, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then,
the
and then
7.3, we had the 3-position gear switch. So you still had to remember to put it back in the middle.
Yeah, this is the stuff I'm talking about. And then like you're waiting for the flap forever.
Right.
Forever. So it's hard. But it is flying, but it's just totally different. I don't know, Mover, what's your take?
So I enjoyed, I'm going to roast myself for this.
I'm going to remember these words.
Yeah. I enjoyed my initial training in the 737. So much so that I remember talking to T-Bear saying, well, I don't need because I hadn't so I was in this transitionary period between a Hornet and the T-38, and the T-38 I was still waiting for medical clearance or whatever, hadn't shown up at the 301st yet. And I remember telling T-Bear, I'm like, well, this is so much better. I don't need the stupid, Air Force thing. It's just a T-38, whatever. And T-Bear's like, well, it is, training F-22 guys. I'm like, nah, but 737, I'm making more money and this is easier. And, this is still a good mission and I'll never go back. And boy, was I wrong. I had no idea. And it was challenging to me, but I will say that the training center in Dallas, everybody was awesome. So they made it easy. And I had a great captain. So it wasn't like, it was just different and exciting. And I was like, okay, I remember the first time they turned the motion on in the sim, I almost got sick because, you tumble. That's the spatial D. It was just a lot of like, okay, when do I do this? Okay, what?
Right.
Why am I doing this?
Right.
And so that was kind of the difficult part because it almost was like you were overthinking everything, whereas flying was secondary in fighters because, okay, the jet is an extension of my body, right? It goes where I want it to go because I'm willing it to go there and I don't need to worry about it. The airliner was like, okay, well, triggers and flows. We're going to, this just happens. And now you got to do this. And now you got to, give me this checklist. And did you do the mechanical checklist down here yet? And, oh, the load closeout. What the hell is a load closeout? Oh, we got to make sure that the numbers match and you got to say the right thing. Yeah. You got to say all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, this is a lot of, stuff. Yeah. And then, so the training, and I did hear of fighter guys struggling because they're used to being single seat. To me, it just felt like I was flying as a dumb wingman with an experienced flight lead. And that's the way I treated it. I'm like, I'm just the wingman, 2 Joker bingo, lead your own fire. I'm just going to do all the things and say all the things that they want me to say. And that's how I got through it. Where it was challenging was my first initial operating experience where we go out and the guy's like, oh, I got a great, flight for you. We're going to take off from Dallas. We're going to go to Atlanta. We're going to go to Chicago. And then we're going to go to St. Louis. And I'm like, holy crap. And he's like, I'll make it easier for you. You're going to be the pilot monitoring on the first leg. And I'm like, do what now?
Right.
Because the pilot monitoring is the one that talks on the radio. And I have no idea. I can fly this thing all day long, but you're asking me to, to say all these things and, ask for this and ask for that. Cause it's not like a fighter. When you're in a fighter, you're a superpower coming through, they're like slow to 250, unable. Because I'm not gonna. And what are you going to do? About it?
Right.
I'm in a fighter. Send somebody.
Right.
I'll wait.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm
already here.
Yeah.
Call the police. I am.
Yeah. Call the cops. I don't care. But in the airliner, it's like, well, you're going to get your ticket pulled if you don't ASAP this, and it's much, much higher risk and higher stress.
Yeah, it's
But-
always, I tell all the captains I fly with, most of my flying career, as I got closer to the airport, I sped up.
Oh yeah.
you
Dude,
know?
I've been on like center frequency or an approach in a busy airport in a Viper, and they're like slow to 250, unable.
Yeah.
Well, what are you gonna do? 300.
Yeah.
300 or greater.
Yep.
What do you got? And they're
Yeah.
like, well, I'm like, that's what the book
No.
says. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, we'll vector you. All right, cancel.
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
dude, you're just, you have that freedom versus an airliner where it's very structured, and really 90% of, at least in the 7.3, is what's it doing. Because you're
100%.
the FMC,
Yeah.
the flight computer, because you're like, okay, descend to maintain by this, and in the Viper, you're like, okay, idle boards, I'm going to make it. I got a HUD and everything.
Right.
In the 7.3, you're like, why is it out of
Right.
path now?
Right.
Why is it what is it doing?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. So with fighters, you do a lot of hand flying. With the
Yeah.
airliner, you program the box, and like learning the box is what's hard. And as you guys probably know from my technology, how I understand technology with this show is not good.
I will say learning the box is hard in all aspects of life, but go on.
That's true. Very true. Wink, wink.
Yeah. Kids, look away. But yeah, so that's, to me, was the most challenging part. And then the second most challenging part was and this is not training, this is just lifestyle. I mean, dude, it's airports and
For you.
yeah, for me. But even for you, Gonky, I mean, the first time you push back,
Yeah.
all that, I got to get permission to start. I got to push back. I got to, let's do a single engine taxi. I mean, all that stuff that
Yeah.
you would think is just basic flying, when you add a 1960s cockpit to it. Now, for you, Gonky, it's just, okay, that switch is
Right.
going up and now the thing's running. But it got old. And for me, the reason the 737 got so old so fast is because I got tired of hitting my head on everything. Especially when you go to the bathroom, your epaulets would hit a switch and flip a switch, and you're like, what did I just flip? Because you'd stand up and it would grab something.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a very comfortable airplane for long flights. I thought the Viper was more comfortable, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So, dude, where I'm at, they're getting the 7.3, and it's so funny. Like the training center went to, like a bunch of the 7 guys have transferred to 7.3, and they were all talking. And I guess I love Boeing. I worked for Boeing; they're a fantastic company. But I guess some of the Boeing guys were a little bit butthurt because they straight up asked, "What do you think of the Max compared to the Airbus?" They're like, "We hate this thing."
Yeah. Max was cool. I mean, the engines take a little bit longer, but it's got all the power and it flies a little bit nicer. But dude, they needed this. It's just like everything else. We need some clean sheet. What happened to the America where we could design new stuff? That's all.
Yeah.
Why do we have to keep like polishing the same
Turd.
I'm not
Sorry.
saying that. I'm just saying, why do we have to keep doing that? But that's a great question. I think we've answered this a couple times, but every time it's a fun conversation.
Yeah.
Anyway, DL says lots of F-16s flying from South Carolina, about South Carolina from Shaw. Good luck if they're looking for Fat Amy. Thanks for the show, guys. Thanks, DL.
Thanks,
and
man.
that's valid. I mean, I at this point, you're looking for wreckage because there's no way any modern fighter is flying for this long. I don't know. I mean, I guess they're just looking at points in the targeting pod. I mean, that's about all you could do.
Anybody see my lightning?
Yeah.
Hello.
Here, girl. Come here, girl.
Yeah.
Come on.
Here, boy.
Oh, I got snacks, Betty.
Yeah, I got snacks.
I'm bringing snacks.
Oh.
Diane, thank you. We'll ruin the 10. I'm going to have to look this up now. Ruin the 10 seconds of T-38 training in the movie A Million Miles Away. What is A Million Miles Away?
Sounds like a movie.
There was a Hallmark movie that somebody sent me recently about.
That was it, wasn't it?
Is that the Thunderbird one? Is that this one?
I have to look. I know what you're talking about. I thought I looked at that. I can't remember, man.
No, this is. Oh, dude, this movie actually looks good. Is it out? So it's with Michael Pena, who is a good actor, I think. A biopic about Jose Hernandez's path from a farm worker to becoming an engineer and an astronaut. I'm going to watch this anyway. So yeah, if it's ruinable, for sure. I need to get back on the Movie Ruins movies train so I can make this show great again. Janitor, I can imagine Gonky doing a carrier break on his first check ride.
Oh, no.
In the Airbus? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, no. I tell you, my check ride in the Airbus the first time, I was just like, I mean, if anything went off script, I'd have been like, I don't know.
Yeah. Carehole.
Thanks, man.
Do Gonky's passengers complain when he thumps down? Ooh, ye of little faith. I thought
You
the
know what's-
Airbus made good pilots average and average pilots average or whatever.
So what's funny, he's talking about my carrier landing. So what's so funny, like, I don't know, a couple months ago, I got called in to fly, and I was flying with a great dude. He's actually used to be a Marine airframer on Hornets. And he's doing his, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. And he literally is like, my first officer day is former Navy F-18 fighter pilot. He's really working hard on his landings, but no pressure. Hopefully he gets us a nice smooth one in. I think we're going to Belleville. And then I'm like staring at him, and he puts the thing down. I'm like, dude, you can't put that on me. Luckily, man, I greased it in. And the best part was he just crashed it when we came back. And I was laughing so hard. I missed all my call outs on the roll, and he was cursing. It was karma. Just,
dude, one thing you'll never have to experience, and I actually put this in one of the Spectre books because it was such a core memory for me. The first time you have a really obese captain and the yoke hits his gut when the flare. You're like, really?
Are you serious?
I am not kidding, dude. I was one of the my first or second years at the airline, and I flew with this really fat guy, and the yoke would hit. Like, we would do the flight control check the first time. It was like, oh, because it hit him in the gut, and then I'm in the flare, and I'm like trying to get a little bit more, and it just, luckily the newer 7.3s, you don't have to flare a lot, but it still would have been nice to get that little extra off at the end. So I blame his gut. Damn, dude. Thank you. In Mover Ruins movies, Top Gun Maverick, you mentioned that the pilot won't fly again after G-lock. What are the consequences for the pilot? So it's not. So you remember the thing.
Yeah.
It's not that he would never fly again. It's just that he wouldn't be a part of that mission.
They wouldn't continue the mission.
Right. It would be, okay, dude, you're done. Especially if the mission specifications and requirements are, they've got to do this canyon and over G the jet. Like, you're not going to take the guy that just G-locked and put them in the mission that requires them to go high G. You're going to take them out. You're either going to put them on some kind of commander's awareness program, or you're going to send them back to the Fuge for training. But you're certainly not going to put them in this high level, super secret mission that requires high Gs. I will say that the whole Top Gun Maverick G loading thing, as we talked about, I mean, the Gs were still going on as they were vertical, like space shuttle style. I'm not sure who thought about did they, what, at some point the Gs stop. I don't know when, but, it's just, that was that the G-lock, and then the other one crashed. So it's not that they're saying, oh, they're bad pilots. It's just that, dude, it's the speed of government. It takes a while for things to resolve. And if you're in a time crunch like they were, they're out. You had alternates, you had other people that could do it. You're not going to send the two people that ejected because, you've got the safety investigation board that has to convene. They've got to be interviewed. They got to make sure they're not at fault. They may have to go through a FNAB. You don't know.
She'd have totally gotten FNAB, dude. They're like, you push so many buttons so fast.
Yeah.
No clue.
In the cockpit.
Yeah, no clue what you're doing.
Let's go. Do them all. But yeah, I do love these questions though, because it does inspire people to learn about it, and I think that's cool. I still get comments on those videos every day, and it's amazing how angry people still are a year later, over a year later, or a year later, and it still amazes me how many people think it's real.
Well, dude, everybody likes us likes Tom Cruise more than us. I mean, why?
That's true. One day, Gonky. One day I'll be loved. Connor Custer.
Thank you.
I wonder if he's related to Cole Custer, the NASCAR driver. curious if you guys might remember the aptitude test you may have taken before flight school. I'll be taking the ASTBE. That's the Navy thing, right? In 2 weeks. Thanks.
Yeah, I remember. I took it.
You took the ASTBE?
Not the E. We call it. Wait. I took the ASVAB. And
You
then
took
for
an
the Navy,
ASVAB? Why'd you take an ASVAB?
because we all took it in high school, and then I
yeah.
took I called it. It was called the air test.
Yeah, so ASTBE, according to the frequently asked questions, includes a math skills test, a reading comprehension test, mechanical comprehension test, aviation nautical information test, naval aviation trait facet inventory, and then performance-based measures battery. Sounds like it's newer.
Yeah, I took the air test, man. It was in back in the 90s, before the internets.
Oh boy.
I went and bought it's like a red book. I wish I still had it. And it was the study guide. And the heck with college classes, I like memorized that thing. It's like get the best score I could. So that's what I did there for a couple weeks
If
in
you
college.
ain't cheating, you ain't trying, Gonky. Yeah. I took the AFOQT. So back then, which I think it's still pretty similar, you had the AFOQT, which was like what I just read, where you had like blocks and quantitative analysis and math and, word associations and stuff like that. Then you had, at the time, it was the BAT, the basic aptitude test, which I think has been replaced by the TBAS, which was like 2 joysticks and you had to move a circle and, you had to track something and play this Atari video game. And then they took the 2 scores and how many hours you had. They gave you a pilot candidate selection method, and that was supposed to assess how good you were going to be in pilot training. Like a 99 meant you were going to graduate number 1, and a 1 meant you were an idiot. And so that's your score. That's what you went. So yes, I remember that. I did not do well on the written part, the AFOQT. I had like a 70 something pilot. It wasn't very, in fact, it was so bad that a C5 unit told me that my scores were too low and they weren't going to hire me.
What can we learn, kids?
Yeah.
Tests don't mean.
Well, but after taking the TBAS with those scores, I had a 99 PCSM. I graduated number 1 in my pilot training class. So that part worked. It's just the written part was stupid. That's all.
Connor, good luck, man.
Woe to the C5 guys that told me no. Actually, they did
Bottom
me a favor, but I digress.
Bottom line, do your best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't be a douche. Do your best. And go to the guard.
I love it.
All right, Gonky. Dude, that is, we made it.
Is that a wrap?
2 hours and 3 minutes so far.
Yeah.
We want to thank everybody for watching.
Yeah,
and we want to thank our podcast listeners. Also, Gonky is selling shirts. I think I am too now.
Yeah.
Go
I'm
buy
working on some
Gonky's
stuff.
children's books. Go buy my books if you want to. Apparently, certain people think that's not okay.
Not like you're selling watches or anything.
Or sunglasses. And as
Or
always, the appearance of DoD information does not imply or constitute endorsement. The views presented
Yeah.
are our own and do not represent the DoD, because why would it? Let's use our common sense here. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And dude, Gonky, look at that. We had more viewers at noon than we do at night.
Well, maybe we can do it next week. I will have a different background because I'll be in a different location.
You're going to be in a trailer park, aren't you?
No, I don't know exactly where I'm going to be, but I'll be somewhere, and we're going to be able to talk fast jets.
Fast jets. So moving forward, we will do the Hornet versus Viper. That was on the list for today, but I decided to skip it because we had so much other stuff to talk about. But we are definitely going to talk about that. And I think, let us know in the comments what you think. Maybe we'll pick a fighter and do a little unclassed briefing every week to learn, like Gonky's book, which is about.
If you're having trouble writing your letters as an adult, yes, I have created.
So these people have kids, Gonky.
Yeah, no, it's so funny. Like I I went down that rabbit hole because I have young kids. I'm like, you know what, dude, I can make better books than this. And that's what I'm doing. So I don't know.
There you go, man. There you go. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. We'll
next
see you
time.
guys next week.
Bye.